So if you haven't met the Martinez family before, you've probably seen their picture. This is Brenda working on Women Build last year, which is a fun event. This family has already put in over 400 hours of sweat equity, which are volunteer hours that are required for the program. So they're going to go well beyond the minimum hours that are required. So this morning I'm going to talk about how you can volunteer in relation to this build in particular. And I'm also going to start out with a little bit of background and history on Habitat and the programs that we offer so that you know a little bit more about our organization. So I'd like to start by talking about the impact of Habitat. I know you've been talking a lot about housing with your initiative that you're working on. We know that 1 out of every 4 people live in poverty housing, some kind of substandard housing. We're glad that you're all here and that you're partnering with us so that we can work to address this together. So Habitat for Humanity was founded in 1976 by Millard and Linda Fuller. They were millionaires. They decided to give away everything that they owned to start this work together. In the 60s, they worked and lived on a collective farm called Koinonia Farm. They went on to do some missionary work in Africa in the early 70s, and they came back to found Habitat. And it was based on this idea of partnering with low-income families to build housing together. And it was also based on the idea of a revolving mortgage fund. And I'll explain a little bit more about how the mortgages work for our families. Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter have obviously been big supporters of Habitat for over 30 years. And Jimmy Carter does a Carter Build every year. This year he's actually doing it in Nepal. That was planned before the earthquake. So different people can sign up from all over the world to go and build with the Carters. And this is some information from Habitat International, just so you can get an idea of the scope. Since 1976, we've served over 1 million families, and this includes new housing, but also neighborhood revitalization programs, home repair programs, microfinance programs as well in some countries. And there are over 2 million volunteers that are working with Habitat, so you're part of a pretty large movement. We also have over 30 Habitat affiliates in Oregon. If you press the button, Jane, you'll see a bunch of them pop up. You've probably noticed in other communities a Habitat Restore or a Habitat office. Some of the Habitat affiliates are very small and they're volunteer run, maybe building 1 house a year, and some are very large, like in the Portland area, building 30 or more houses a year. And our affiliate was founded in 1990, so we're very glad to be celebrating our 25-year anniversary this year. This was our first house, which was built on 18th Ave in Eugene. And this is our old logo up here. Our affiliate was founded by volunteers, as pretty much all affiliates are. And we build right now between 2 and 3 houses per year. We're hoping, we're planning to increase that capacity soon. And we've completed a total of 51 houses so far. We have 2 other houses that are currently under construction. So this Interfaith build is the 54th house that we have. All of our houses, except for 1 in Veneta, all the rest of them have been built in Springfield and Eugene. These are some photos from dedication ceremonies for our recent houses. This is a rainy day groundbreaking photo from last year. We had a very sunny groundbreaking yesterday. So how do we build our houses? Habitat houses are simple, decent, and affordable. So our houses are pretty modestly sized. This is the maximum square footage depending on the number of bedrooms. The Martinez house will be a 2-bedroom home. They have 2 young boys and they're close in age, so it'll be a 2-bedroom house. They're also decent though. We want to make sure that they meet the needs of the family and that they last a long time for the family. So we use locally available materials. We use a lot of decent quality donated materials from companies locally. And we're also very proud that we're building our houses to Energy Star standards right now. They have ductless heat pumps in the houses. They're very energy efficient. Our houses are also affordable. The houses are not free. The families do pay for them, but they pay basically a zero interest mortgage. So they're not paying thousands of dollars in interest over the course of the mortgage. The families also save for the closing costs for the house. So they save about $2,500 to cover the closing costs. And also while they're in the program, as I mentioned before, they put in their sweat equity. So for a 2-adult family, like the Martinez family, it's a minimum of 500 hours while they're in the program. Typically takes about 1.5 to 2 years to complete. So while they're in the program, before their house is even being built, they're paying it forward to other families by working on other Habitat houses, by volunteering in our Restore, or you might have seen them at the home show booth that we have. They also participate in homeowner education classes. We offer workshops at Habitat, and they also take classes at NEDCO in Springfield, so that they have the education so that when they move into their homes, they're successful homeowners and they maintain their homes for a long time. I just wanted to introduce you briefly to some of our other Habitat families. We call them partner families since we're partnering together with them. These are the families for the other 2 houses that are currently under construction. So this is Kenya and her daughter Jayla, and this is Ursula and her kids Ishmael and Haley. And Ursula's home is on Yogi Way in Eugene, and that's the other house that we're currently working on. So once we get started with the volunteer days on this house on Royal, we'll be alternating days of the week with the house on Yogi Way. This is a newer family, the Escalantes. They have twins, and they're looking forward to having a house where each of their kids have their own bedroom. So I'd like to explain also how we select our families. One, so that you know a little bit more about the Martinez family and our other partner families. And you'll probably be working alongside these families when you're out there on the build site as well. So we select all of our families based on need, ability to pay the mortgage, and willingness to partner with Habitat. So in terms of need, all of our families fall between 30 to 60% of the median income for this area. They all have some kind of substandard conditions in their current housing. So it may be that they have a leaky roof or repairs that the landlord won't complete, or there's overcrowding. There might be a parent and a child sharing a bedroom, or someone sleeping in the living room or in the garage. Or there may be something unsafe or unhealthy about their housing. And a lot of our families are spending a significant amount of their income on housing, on their rental right now. So it might be 40 or 50% of their income going towards housing, which means that they can't save money for basic needs that they have, or for their children's education, for retirement, and other long-term planning. But since we are a lender, so we look at their ability to pay the mortgage. We don't want the family to default on the mortgage. And we also rely on those monthly mortgage payments coming in to continue our operations and build more houses and serve more families. So we make sure that they have sufficient income. We also look at their ability to save for the closing costs and make that monthly mortgage payment. And we do look at their credit history. A lot of our families, even if they do qualify for a conventional mortgage, they probably are not able to make those high monthly mortgage payments, or maybe their credit is a little too bad for the lenders, the conventional lenders, to take them on. But we do want to make sure that they have a decent bill payment history and that they'll be able to make those payments. And lastly, we want to make sure that they're a good partner with Habitat. So they have to live in the Springfield-Eugene area and plan to stay here for a while. And we also want to make sure that they understand that sweat equity requirement, that they have a plan to complete their hours and save for the closing costs for the house. A portion of their hours, up to 40% of their sweat equity hours, they can have their team members complete, so they can bring in extended family or friends or co-workers to work with them. The Martinez family, they had a big showing of people who were there to support them at the groundbreaking yesterday. They have a lot of family, church members, and friends that came out, and they also, those friends also come to the build site and work with them, so you'll probably meet some of them if you're out there working on the Martinez house as well. And this is basically the end result many years after the house is built. This January we got to celebrate with the Ramirez family, who had paid off their mortgage. Their house was built in Springfield in 1998 or 97, and they had a 20-year mortgage. So they paid off their mortgage 3 years early. And you can see here the parents with their 4 kids, their grandchildren. They raised their kids in this home in Springfield. And we went out with a copy of the mortgage, and they got to burn their mortgage to celebrate that. So this is, really the end result. I know the Martinez family, they've said this is their forever home. This is where they want to stay for a long time. So eventually, we'll have a photo up there of them burning their mortgage as well. So in addition to our homeownership program, we recently started a repair program. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about that, because as a volunteer, if you're interested, you can also get involved with a project like this. This program is called A Brush with Kindness, and it's a minor exterior home repair program. And it serves homeowners who are low income and who are veterans, disabled, and or elderly. And we're trying to help them maintain the value of their home, their asset, and also make sure that the home is livable and safe for them as well. So the types of projects we do are exterior painting, landscaping and yard cleanup. We build accessibility ramps. We do fence and gutter repair and deck and stair repair as well. This is a picture of one of our homeowners, David Oakes, who's a local activist and speaker, and he was paralyzed after an accident. And so our volunteers came out and built a deck and a ramp into his backyard. And this made it so that David could safely exit the rear of the house, and also so that he could enjoy his backyard where he spent a lot of time before his accident. So we do build a lot of ramps with this program, as well as other minor repairs as well. Okay, so I know a lot of you are probably interested in volunteering out there on the build site. So one way that you can volunteer is as an individual. You can go out on your own whenever you're able to. And you can also go out as part of a team build, which will be organized. You have a liaison, who's Babs Sullivan here. So Babs and I will work together to schedule any team builds, whether that's just with FCC or if it's with the other Interfaith sponsors as well for Interfaith Team Build Day. So these are just some general things to be aware of, and there's more information in your packets as well. So all volunteers on the build site must be at least 16 years old. If volunteers are under 18, then they need to have a parent or a guardian sign their liability waiver as well. If you're coming out as an individual, then you have to attend a volunteer orientation, so that's great because you're doing that today. But if you have other friends or family who are interested in coming out with you on an individual basis, then I offer a volunteer orientation every couple of weeks at our offices, so you can talk to me about when the next one is scheduled for. Does anybody here have any construction experience? Okay, great. Well, we always welcome people with construction experience, but it's not necessary as well. We have volunteers of all different skill levels out there on the site, some who have never used a hammer before, and it's a great way to learn about construction. We do have a site supervisor and other very skilled crew leaders and volunteers who will train you, teach you how to use the tools, make sure that you're working on something that you're comfortable with, and also that you're learning something as well. We're not quite sure yet when the volunteer days will be starting for this build. We have to get the foundation started first, but within the next few weeks we should be starting. And we are planning to work on the Yogi Way house on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then to work on this house on Royal Ave on Thursdays and Fridays. And we'll be alternating Saturdays between the two different sites as well. As I said, if you're interested in a team build, it's a great bonding experience. It's a lot of fun. And you can sign up directly through BABS once we have some team build dates available.
Amy, excuse me, the team build, is that where everybody from all the, what is a team build?
Right, so what we call a team build is any group that's coming out together, as opposed to just individual volunteers who sign up, which I'll explain. Individual volunteers usually sign up through our website and show up. But if we have a group, such as a student group, a church group, a business, we call that a team build. And so in this case, it would either be members from your congregation going out together, or we're hoping also to do an interfaith team build with a few members from each of the sponsoring congregations.
You might mention the typical size of group.
The typical size of groups for the team build, I would say, is between 8 to 12. Sometimes we can handle more volunteers if we're working on a particular phase in the build that requires many different hands. So we just kind of have to play it by ear and see what point we're at in the build. This is Byron. He's our site supervisor. He's on Habitat staff, and so you'll see him when you go out to the build site. Things to remember when you're getting ready to go out: make sure you wear closed-toed shoes. They will yell at you, even if you're just visiting at lunchtime. Jean does not always follow that rule. Make sure that you dress for the weather, since this build is mostly going to be happening during the summer and fall. It's going to be sunny and hot, so make sure that you wear a hat, wear sunscreen, and are prepared to be out there for the full day. So we do prefer people to come out for the full day, but if that's not possible, definitely come out in the morning and start with everyone else for the day. In terms of lunch, sometimes we'll have groups, church groups, other groups who will prepare and bring a lunch and donate that to the crew, and that's always a great treat for our volunteers. So if you're coming out on a team build, you might have some other church members that prepare a lunch and bring it. But otherwise, in general, we ask volunteers to bring their own lunch.
I just say lunch is a very difficult part.
Yes, I am going to get to that, but if you are interested in volunteering but not so sure about the construction part or want to do something more, then preparing and serving a lunch is a great way to get involved. Also, be sure to bring a water bottle on site and bring a positive, flexible attitude. I try to give volunteers a heads up of what you'll be working on for the day and what to expect, but sometimes things change, so you just have to be ready to roll with it. And this is just kind of the schedule for the day. We break for lunch at noon, clean up by 2:30, and are done with the day by 3. And we do ask volunteers to arrive on site between 8:45 and 8:55 so that you can sign in and fill out any additional paperwork and get ready for the day. Okay. So I mentioned before, if you are interested in volunteering as an individual, which means not as part of a group, then you'll need to register on our website, and there's some information about this in the green brochure in your packets. This is the URL here. It's sehabitat.volunteermatrix.com. So you'll go on that website, you'll register and create a little profile as a volunteer, and then you'll have access to this calendar here. And I know you can't really see what it says here. But on the calendar, you'll see for each day which house we'll be working at and what shifts are available. So if you're interested in working on this house, you'll want to look for Royal Ave, Martinez family on that day. And then as long as there are spaces available for volunteers, you can click and sign up for that shift yourself. Okay, so I already mentioned some of this, but if you're interested in volunteering in addition to or instead of doing the actual construction on site, we love volunteers who will serve lunches to our crew, so you can talk to me or talk to Babs if you're interested in doing that. whether that's on a day that your group is coming out or any other day of the build.
And Byron said there'll be a barbecue on the site too.
Yeah.
There's a barbecue.
Byron does like to fire up the barbecue. We also can always use people who have video and photography skills to help document the build. So if you're interested in that, you can get in touch with me. And we also have site hosts that help to sign in the volunteers and keep kind of the paperwork organized on site in the mornings. And that typically takes about an hour, hour and a half in the mornings. And if you're interested in that, it just requires a little bit of training from me. But I am looking for people who would be willing to come out, say 1 day a week or more in the morning to help sign in the volunteers. Okay, and final steps to volunteering. In your packet, there's a liability waiver. It's two-sided. So if you plan to come out to the build site, I encourage you to fill it out right now. I apologize that I forgot to bring pens, but hopefully you have them. So make sure you fill out the front and the back of that form. I will sign as a witness on that. And when you get out to the build site, they will ask you to fill out an emergency contact form that's kept on site. So be sure to do that. And also be sure to sign in and out when you're on the build site that day. That's the responsibility of the volunteers.